I really love the way you started out this morning with the like-mindedness, and all of that really ties into some of the questions that I've had recently with regard to relationships with those that are closest to us, like a husband or a partner. And the like-mindedness, how that you're talking about being in sync with yourself. And when you're in sync with yourself, it's easier to be in sync with another person that you're close to.
You bring perhaps the most important focus to this conversation that could happen.
Of course.
Of course you did. In this way, when you think about a relationship with, as you say, the people who mean the most to you, the tendency is to try to sync up with them, which is a big mistake, because they're sometimes not in the spot you want to sync with.
Oh, let me tell you.
And your attention upon where they are takes you there too. In other words, you don't mean to sync with them, but you do, because your observation of what is a syncing up experience, isn't it? Whatever you're looking at, if you give your attention to it for more than 17 seconds, you get that momentum going, and you're part of that. And once it's crossed 17 seconds, you can no longer blame them.
What?
You can no longer blame them, because you've given your attention to that long enough that you have become like-minded with them. Think about that. It's like the mob rule. When a mob gets going, you think that there are not mobs anymore because there's not so much lynching happening in the parking lot. But there is mob rule. It happens with the teenagers. It happens in almost every group of people. It's like you kind of want to go along with the mob. And if the mob is high-minded, that's all right. We'd like you to resonate with your inner mob.
I'm so excited in hearing this, because more and more in the last year that I've been listening, I'm getting better and better at recognizing when I'm starting to dip from the disc that I want to be and intend to be when I'm around somebody else. And sometimes even being around myself, I can hear my thoughts and go, that was really unresourceful. Look at how pretty the trees are. And I start retraining myself to be in a better place, and then I feel better.
All of that is wonderful, and everything that you said is on point. So now say it from the framework of what you just heard today, new from us, about the like-minded. Say it from that point of view.
Then I'm more like-minded with my inner source, my inner being, I mean.
And what we would say, using most of the words that you just used, are, I can feel that my thoughts are not like those of my source.
Right.
I can feel that these thoughts are not like those of my source. They're like the petty teenagers I grew up with, or they're like the fearmongers on CNN. They are not like the source within me. And how do I know? Because they feel like this instead of like this.
With regard to the relationship with those that are closest to us, like a husband or a partner, how, when you have the physical relationship,
you have to say to yourself, I'm reaching for like-mindedness apart from you. You have to say, don't say it to them, they won't like it, but you have to say and mean, I love you so much, but you are second on my list. I love you so much, but you are second on my list, because my inner self is first. And I will not sacrifice that relationship for this one. I will no longer sacrifice my like-mindedness with Source in order to validate you in a conversation. The other day, Esther was complaining to someone, her daughter.
That's not like her.
Well, it is occasionally like her. It always feels terrible when it happens, but she was complaining about something to Tracy on the telephone. And it was really valid, what Esther was saying. It was so valid. It was so valid. It was so valid, so validated, so continuing to be validated. In Esther's experience, it was truth and reality, and Esther was on her broom. And Tracy is going, and Esther could hear water running and dishes banging and other things going on in the room, and Tracy had put it on the speakerphone and was continuing on with her day.
She was probably in another room.
And Esther said, "Are you listening to me?" And Tracy said, "Not really." And then Esther said, "Well, I want you to know, it makes me really mad that you will not come here with me and feel bad with me in this moment." And then they both laughed, because Tracy just was not going to go there. She was just not going to go there. She was just not going to go there. And Esther felt betrayal for a moment. What do you think I pay you for? I pay you to be my negative sounding board. Of course, that's not the way Esther feels, but in that moment, Esther felt betrayal because somebody that she wanted to agree with her about something that was not going well in her experience would not come. The little rascal acting like Esther's own inner being. Because the only reason Esther feels negative emotion is because we won't go there with her either, you see. And so you have to put your relationship with your inner being first. That's what Tracy was doing. She was not going to give up her happy, lighthearted moment to soothe someone who ultimately, in that moment, was not soothable. In other words, why go there? Why go there?
It's unresourceful. That's all really good, but that's not exactly where my question was going. It was going more towards sex.
Much more resourceful.
I think so. We seem to be more in sync when we're able to have regular...
Well, you've got the cart before the horse here a little bit. Who's drawing the dirty pictures now?
He looks really red.
Yeah, it was him. In this sense, if
there
a line's
feels more distance when we're not...
Or is the wanting to be together a symptom of the alignment that you've already prepaid for?
I'm not following.
In other words, you are expressing like the action is the reason for the alignment. We are submitting that the alignment beforehand was the reason for the action. And that the alignment was there, and that's why the intimacy felt wonderful, rather than the wonderful feeling intimacy is what brought you into alignment.
We seem to be in sync with each other, more like-minded, when there is more intimacy, physical intimacy.
Well, it's logical, isn't it?
It seems, but why is that? And I guess the follow-up to that is, do we ever transcend that physical, I guess it would be support, the physicalness, the physical intimacy supports the like-mindedness, the alignment that we feel. But you
see, we know that that's the way you want to say it. And we are not ever going to say that you cannot perform an action that does improve the way you feel. For example, you could be in a very bad mood and you could get out and take a walk and start walking and breathing and taking your mind off of the things that were bothering you, and you would feel better. So we acknowledge that there are actions that can improve the way you feel, for the reason that the action often distracts you from the attention to the subject that had a vibration that was full of resistance. But we are not really wanting to teach action to change vibration. We want to teach deliberate intention about the way you feel to change vibration, which then inspires the action.
So the action reinforces the original alignment that makes
the alignment was already present. The alignment was already present. How many of you have the experience of a manifestation? And as the manifestation is unfolding, you recognize the vibrational work that you had done in advance. That's what pre-paving is. That sets you up for this now manifestation. And so if you understand vibration, and if you understand emotion, and you do something about contouring your thoughts for the purpose of the good feeling emotion, and then the action and other ideas are inspired from that basic place of alignment, everything will go better for you. And in the long run, you'll have much more consistent alignment with who you really are. So let's walk through this. Let's say that for whatever reason, you're in a bad mood. And let's say that your partner, for whatever reason, isn't. So he comes and he talks you in to a sexual engagement. Just flow with us a little bit. And so one of you is eager and wanting, the other one not so much. But you're conforming and you decide to just go with it, and so you do. And during the process, these things happen. These things that are always conducive to alignment. Because of the situation that is occurring, you are distracted from other things that have been keeping you out of the vortex. And because there is also memory of positive things from before, it's easy for you to get into the flow of that. And so after a while, you get in sync with it and you have a nice experience, which makes you come to the conclusion that you were presenting to us here, that if you have more of those kinds of experiences, then things just go better generally. And we're not disagreeing that that can be the case. But what we really want you to hear is that if you have been tending to your alignment and your partner has been tending to his alignment, then the inspiration for those delicious intimacies are going to occur much more often. And in every other way, conversations are sweeter. Walks in the park are sweeter. Even conversations about things that have been bothering you or that you're working on are sweeter. Everything's better when you're in alignment. And so this really ties in powerfully with what we were talking about the like-mindedness. It's about you getting in sync with who you are. And when you get in sync with who you are, the likelihood of you helping someone else get in sync with who they are is really, 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 really strong. In other words, when you're loving someone, when you're tuned in to that source energy and you're holding someone as your object of attention, even if they're still at work, even if they're across town or across the world, even if they're not right there with you, your attention upon anyone, when you are in vibrational alignment with who you really are, is powerful, powerful attention. And they will feel the love that you are projecting if they are anywhere in the vicinity of it, you see. So if you have the benefit of having two people who understand that, who are simultaneously caring about how they feel and are working to feel good more of the time, then there'll be much more of that intimacy, much more of that intertwining, much more of that alignment, much more alignment on all subjects of your life experience.
Do people grow together learning this? Do they ever meet in a bad area of their life and then start to become in sync with themselves, and they're able to
of course, because everyone who now is in the midst of a relationship was not tuned into source energy when they came together. Law of attraction brought them together. It is accurate to say they were on a very similar wavelength or they wouldn't be together. They had things that they agreed upon on lots of subjects or they wouldn't be together. So it's a very common thing for one before the other to become aware of this alignment and to foster or discover a desire within themselves to be more like-minded with the source within them. And then sometimes the other one bounces out of their experience and sometimes the other one comes along in a stronger way. But you can't take responsibility for what anybody else is doing. Also, there's something that we really want to say here, and that is we hear it really often from people in these rooms, in fact. And it goes something like this: Abraham, I'm often in much more alignment than my partner. I do the work, my partner doesn't do the work. I'm much more in alignment than my partner. And we say, and yet in this moment with these words, you are not. Because the source within you is not making that distinction ever about your partner. And so it's easy to say, well, I feel this way because of what my partner is doing, but that doesn't fly. Alignment is alignment and misalignment is misalignment. And so that's why it becomes really a wonderful thing when you take everybody else out of the equation and you just form a partnership with your inner being. The like-mindedness is what you're reaching for. And what anybody else is doing is irrelevant to your equation. Really irrelevant to your equation. Because when you're in sync with your inner being, you love them all anyway. You don't need them to do this or do this or do this or do this to please you. You are already pleased. You're pleased by the resources of alignment of the universe, you see.